Hey there. Today, we are diving into an ancient technique that, honestly, has never been more relevant for navigating the world we live in. We're talking about the Socratic Method, a seriously powerful guide to, well, thinking for yourself.
Okay, so let's jump right in by looking at two really different ways we learn. On one side, you've got passive learning, basically being told what to think. You just absorb it. But on the other side, there's active inquiry, which is all about learning how to think. And that shift from what to how is where the Socratic Method lives. It's the ultimate tool for making that change.
So let's dig into that idea a little deeper. How do we actually get beyond just, handing out answers and find a better, more meaningful way to learn? There's this beautiful metaphor at the heart of the method. It's called meutic, which is just the Greek word for midwifery. The idea is that a teacher isn't supposed to just deposit knowledge into an empty brain. No, their job is to be more like a midwife, helping the student give birth to their own understanding. It's already in there. It just needs help coming out. Now, the engine that drives this whole process is a technique called elenchus. This is the real art of asking these probing questions. And the goal isn't to trap someone or make them look foolish. It's to help them and you see the contradictions or the gaps in your own thinking. It's really about discovering what we don't know together. So when you do this right, all that questioning leads to this fascinating state called aporia. And this isn't just regular old confusion. It's a special kind of productive puzzlement. You know that wait a minute moment? That's aporia. It's when the old, shaky assumptions fall away and you're genuinely motivated to start searching for what's actually true. Okay, so how does this actually work in the real world? Let's open up the toolkit for this art of questioning and look at the core principles and the kinds of questions that make it all happen. So, the whole method really rests on a few key ideas. It's always about questions over lectures. It's about taking the time to define your key terms so everyone's on the same page. But the big ones, the ones that make it all work, it's about collaborating, not competing. This whole process has to be built on psychological safety, creating a space where it's okay to explore, to be uncertain, and even to be wrong. So the first tool in your kit is the clarifying question. Think about it. Before you can even argue about whether a project was a success, you have to agree on what that word actually means. This one simple step can head off so many arguments that are really just about people talking past each other. All right, next up, you've got to get to the foundation of belief. Every single argument we make is built on assumptions, and a lot of the time, they're hidden. Asking a question like, what are we just taking for granted here, pulls them out into the light so you can actually look at them. And finally, this is a crucial one. You have to ground the conversation in reality. This type of question moves you past just stating an opinion. It demands that claims are backed up with some kind of evidence, or reasons, or experience. It's the show me the receipts question. It asks, why do you actually believe that? So, we've got the principles, and we've got the question types. Now, how do you put it all together? Let's walk through a practical, step-by-step guide for actually running a Socratic session. Running one of these sessions follows a pretty clear roadmap. First, you set the focus, one single idea or problem to really wrestle with. Just as important, you establish norms, agreeing to listen, to disagree respectfully. Then you kick things off with one big open question. From there, you just use those targeted probes we talked about to dig in and test ideas. It's a really good idea to pause every so often and summarize where you're at. And then you wrap it all up by reflecting, not just on the topic, but on how your own thinking might have shifted. Now, the really cool thing about this method is just how versatile it is. This is not just for philosophy class, so let's look at a couple of quick examples of how it works in totally different fields. Let's start with a classic little math puzzle that can really make your brain do a double take. The opening question seems so simple. Is the number 0.999, repeating forever, actually equal to 1? For most of us, our gut reaction is, no, of course not. It's just a tiny bit less. And that's the perfect starting point to challenge a common assumption. And here it is, the Socratic probe. See, instead of just giving the answer, the question gives you a little algebraic tool. It guides you to do a calculation that lets you discover the surprising truth for yourself. That's that midwifery of ideas we were talking about right there in action. All right, let's pivot from the clean world of math to a much messier issue in the modern economy. This is a huge, open-ended question, right? It's got massive legal and financial consequences. A simple yes or no answer really doesn't help anyone. So the follow-up questions immediately force us to be more rigorous. They steer the conversation away from just gut feelings and towards specific legal tests. We have to define our criteria, like who's really in control of the work, before we can even hope to answer the big question. Look, knowing the theory is one thing, but actually putting it into practice effectively is the whole game. So to wrap up, let's go over a few simple rules to really make this method work for you.
And just real quick, there's actually some solid cognitive science explaining why this is so powerful. By forcing your brain to pull up information and connect ideas, it literally strengthens your memory. That little bit of struggle to answer a tough question, they call it a desirable difficulty, is what makes learning stick.
And finally, please remember these practical rules of the road. Be humble, really listen, and just focus on one question at a time. Try to avoid those leading questions that kind of have the answer baked into them. And most importantly, never, ever confuse disagreeing with an idea with disrespecting the person who's sharing it. We're going to end by turning the method back on you, because the best way to get this is to use it. So take a second and think about it. What is one assumption you hold, something you take for granted every day, that might be worth questioning? Your inquiry starts right now.